Welcome into the latest edition of the Pump Fake. Jarrett Bailey, my work father, Mike Tanier. It's great to see you as always, buddy. How are you?
I'm doing great. Rough Sunday for all of our teams, though.
Yeah, it was. I was in hell for 9 hours, and we'll touch on all the games and why.
Yeah.
But yeah, my goodness, I was so looking forward to yesterday. It was like gloomy outside. I had candle lit, just a nice like little fall vibe. And oh my goodness, it was just awful. And then the Steelers played the way that they did, and so my lady friend was like, you know what, I'm gonna get you a gyro and cheer you up. I was like, all right, we got a gyro. We're gonna be chilling. Josh Allen's gonna play later. If the Bills beat the Ravens, I can count that as a wash. That obviously didn't happen, and we'll dive into all of it. You seem to have a good weekend. I got a text from you on Saturday. It was just a picture of what was that? It was some sort of mule.
It was an apple cider mule, and
That's
we have a mule history, mutual history.
Oh yeah, it's great. So for those of you who don't know, it was 2 years ago, not this past combine, but the one before. We were in Indy at the Marriott, and it was packed to the wall. And you're like, "Hey, I'll get you a drink. What do you want?" I was like, "I got Moscow Mule." And then you came back. You're like, some people in this situation would just order something simple, like a beer, maybe, but you chose to not do that. And then the next day was the first time I met Peter King, by the way. You introduced me to Peter King in the middle of our conversation. Peter, how do you feel about Moscow Mules? And Peter was like, yeah, it's a great drink. What's the issue? I was all around good stuff.
Right. Oh, yeah. You shamed me in front of Peter and other members of the media. I was unaware that the mule only had 3 ingredients. I was under the impression that this was some kind of elaborate, daiquiri-like substance, etc. So now it was a beer fest, and so I go to these beer fests, and you get a mug, and like for X amount of dollars, you get like tickets to go to each of the little booths, and so I went to a place that had a beer called Optimus Prime.
Oh, that's a good name.
Yes. Now I ordered it. And I drank some of it, and then I complained to my adult son, who was also there, that it was too bitter. Now think about this. I just ordered a beer called Optimus Prime and was complaining about it being too bitter. You either die the hero or you live long enough to become the villain, and I think I'm right on that level here.
Yeah, because you're a big IPA guy.
No, I'm not actually. No,
aren't you?
I like Belgians. I like all this weird stuff. I like sours. Okay. I'll drink IPAs, but man, there's too many damn IPAs. Every little micro around here has like 7 taps and 6 of them are IPAs. And I think it's because if they don't really know what they're doing, just throw more hops. Just throw more hops in there. So it's like, oh, you have achieved bitter. Congratulations. I could suck on a lemon. That's also bitter. But I will drink them. But again, I don't like IPAs. I ordered a beer called Optimus Prime.
Yes, you did.
Right. I'm turning into those old people who order something at the diner and then ask for them to take it back because it's
I can never. I could order like chicken and they could bring me, I don't know, a soup, and I'd be like, yeah, thanks. I'll eat it. Don't worry. Go ahead.
There are witnesses out there in the NFL mediascape of me being brought the wrong order and just eating it anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not gonna make a fuss. If it looks okay and tastes whatever, that's fine. Yep, I'll take it. All right, big slate in front of us. Yeah. So let's start in Baltimore.
Whoa.
The Baltimore Ravens hosting the 3-0 Buffalo Bills, and immediately from the get-go, the Baltimore Ravens said, we will happily run it against your soft-ass defense for 60 minutes, and there's nothing you can do to stop us. An 87-yard touchdown run by Derrick Henry on the Ravens' first from scrimmage. Trying to set the tone for the evening. The Ravens ran for over 270 yards. Derrick Henry had 199 and 2 scores. Josh Allen made a really cool throw, and it looked like they were coming back. And then the next time they get the ball, Joe Brady says, no, actually, I'm the hero. Curtis Samuel took the direct snap. Toss it back to Josh, and it'll be great. Unfortunately, it results in a fumble recovered by the Ravens, which killed all momentum and any hopes of the Bills coming back. The Ravens win 35-10 to get to 2-2. Buffalo suffers their first defeat and falls to 3-1 in primetime on Sunday Night Football. And yeah, I think for the Bills, they had 3 really good matchups for them without all their defensive stars, where you're playing the Cardinals, the Dolphins, and the Jaguars. 3 finesse offenses that aren't very physical. That kind of plays into your hand. the Ravens will happily just pound the rock for 60 minutes, and they did exactly that. So a battle of matchups, styles make fights, and the Ravens, a more physical offense going up against a Bills team that didn't have Matt Milano, Terrell Bernard in the middle. Todd Monken basically just drew a big red X on Dorian Williams and Balin Spector, and was like, all right, have at it. And it worked out in their favor rather handedly.
Yeah, but he drew that red X with a backup center and with a backup guard, and like with the rotations they've been doing at tackle, etc. So it's not like you were facing this full strength offensive line. It was a pounding. By the way, when the music kicked in, you had the vocal distortion.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah, you might have a little bit of an issue with that. That might need working on. You'll check the audio when we do when you check.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind. This is on the fly podcasting, ladies and gentlemen. You're getting inside baseball here.
Right. Because I thought you were like trying to do sort of like a trip hop like chipcore kind of. We only got 4 bits to work with here, and sometimes the sound gets a little garbled. But it's 1974 lo-fi.
Yes.
But part of it I just chalked up to, okay, Bills weren't necessarily prepared for this opponent, coming off of a Monday night win at home, going on the road, getting in here, catching a tougher opponent than they faced in the first 3 weeks, and getting just beaten off the snap by that a little bit. And a lot of it is also what you described. There was that point, and Aaron Schatz and I were talking about earlier. I guess it was 21-7, 24-7 after that touchdown throw. Or after that,
I think it was 21-10. So like they were starting because it was 21-3 at the half. Allen makes the throw to Shakir, which sets up the Ty Johnson touchdown. The Bills get another stop defensively, and it's like, all right, we might see the Ravens do another Raven. This thing's not over. And then the trick play from hell that just does not work.
The trick play from hell, which is incomprehensible trick play, and that gives the ball back, and that gives the Ravens, all right, now we can take control of this game. So it's still, it's a beating, etc. You can see where that turning point was, where that could have been a game. I think the Ravens win that game no matter what, but it might have been a game where the final score was 35-31, and this is just 2 great teams going after each other.
Yeah, and like I said it last night, like the Bills are going to be fine. Like they're still going to win that division probably pretty handedly. You don't got to worry about the Dolphins right now because they're playing Snoop Huntley at quarterback tonight, by the way. Enjoy watching that against Will Levis. Good Lord. And then New England's a tire fire. Maybe the Jets, but I'm not. After what we saw yesterday, I'm not too concerned about the Jets. So the Bills are still going to win this division. And Josh Allen talks about it after the game. He's like, I'd rather I'm paraphrasing here. I'd rather kind of get my ass kicked right now than later on in the season. They can correct things right now. And again, they're going to get Milano, Bernard, Taron Johnson, all those guys back. So, to be 3-1 through 4 games with all those injuries, Allen still hasn't thrown an interception. I feel fine about the Bills.
3-1, these injuries, again, because they're defensive injuries to edge rushers, marquee guys.
Yeah.
They're significant. And then you can look at where the Chiefs are with their injuries on the offensive side of the ball, and you say, count your blessings that you're talking about a couple of linebackers right now, not like your entire receiving core.
Exactly. All right. To the desert, because Jaden Daniels might be the second coming of Jesus. 42-14 over the Arizona Cardinals. Jaden Daniels just keeps doing really cool stuff. The Washington Commanders right now, one of the best offenses in football, coming off a 38 points performance last week against the Bengals. They put up 42 in a blowout win in the Cliff Kingsbury revenge game, where Jaden Daniels, again, a touchdown pass to Terry McLaurin. He rushes for another. The ground game got going for Washington, and they sit atop the NFC East at 3-1. And how about it? The Washington Commanders probably in a spot that not too many people thought that they would be in. And they have right now the unquestioned rookie of the year and a quarterback who they hope to be their savior. And right now, all signs say that he very well could be.
Yeah, there's nothing negative that you can really say about Jaden Daniels right now.
Yeah.
Be over critical or over skeptical at this point. Their offense really is doing that. Cliff Kingsbury has been calling phenomenal games. They have been getting
That's a weird sentence to say out loud, isn't it?
It's a weird sentence. He has these short-term things and I was, again, talking about this earlier. He throws so many formations at you. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's very simple concepts, but it's hidden by the thousands of formations. Now, eventually you get tendencies on him or his idea, his bag of tricks. He needs to play with every toy in his toy box. and that gets the better of him. But you'll get a couple weeks in a row. We saw this with Arizona for a few weeks earlier in Kyler Murray's career, where it's like you're kind of catching people off guard with all this. That's helping. Daniels is making very good decisions with the ball, more or less. I think he had one bad throw yesterday where he kind of chucked it into coverage. When he runs, he gets down after picking up yardage, or he gets out of bounds. He's not taking unnecessary hits, which is good. And the offense is really excellent. The defense exists. I don't know what the staying power, honestly, of this is. Like, whenever I'm like range finding, like, hey, are the Commanders going in the right direction? Absolutely. Are they now, the team to beat in the NFC East? So, like, we've got a lot of football left to play with some of these other teams. Let's hold back on that.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be putting up, 38 and 42 points every week. I think once they find what their baseline is, and depending on how high that is, then we'll be able to, have a greater feel for them. I think right around this time of year is when you start to get a better feel for teams, especially now in today's day and age where nobody plays in the preseason. September is basically just an extension of the preseason for a lot of these teams. Yeah. And but Washington, definitely trending in the right direction. We'll stay in the NFC East because the Philadelphia Eagles traveling to the place that is their personal hell and facing their personal Satan, Todd Bowles, who continues to have the number of Jalen Hurts. The Buccaneers win 33-16, and Baker Mayfield had a tremendous day through the air as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers carve up the Philadelphia Eagles. What do you make of Nick Sirianni's job status right about now? A lot of people are ready to see him kicked out of the city and exiled like he's Romeo and Juliet, never to return. Tampa Bay continues to look great as well. Just your overall thoughts from this game. But being the Philadelphia man that you are, what are your thoughts on the Eagles?
Sirianni might be saved by the early bye. Where if this went on for 2 weeks and it was a week 7 bye, it could be a different situation. Or the fact that Lurie doesn't necessarily like to do that, or the fact that they just switched coordinators and there's going to be like a patience narrative going over there. So that was too easy for the Buccaneers yesterday. And, Hurts's big mistakes come late in the game when it's kind of already out of hand and he's pressing a little bit. And again, you're talking about a team with injuries. It's like you're without Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, Lane Johnson, a couple of other guys on that side. But Baker Mayfield, he was just dinking and dunking, and it was 21-0. Like, there was not a difficult forced throw, downfield, tricky read. It is dropping back. It is just distributing the ball. Evans, Godwin, Sterling Shepard is on this team now.
Just basically playing point guard at that point.
Playing point guard, getting these guys 8-9 yard chunks. The running game is Irving and White are running out 7-8 yard chunks. And really, the Eagles go 3 and out. I don't love Kellen Moore. I was never like
that. Didn't take long for Eagles fans to realize, oh yeah, he's not very good, is he?
He was the savior of Justin Herbert, except that he wasn't. Herbert got hurt. He was the guy who did everything right with Dak Prescott, and McCarthy did everything wrong, and yet it's the same there. But like the opening drives, again, this is a team without 2 starting wide receivers, and they're throwing on first down. And they're not even doing like RPO throws and things like that. Let's do drop back passing on first down. The one thing that's worked for the Eagles is Saquon Barkley. And like you also have a read option game with Jalen Hurts. And why won't you go back to this primitive ball? The reason why you're not going to go back to primitive ball is that's Sirianni's game, and you're probably in a power struggle with him. Yeah. So it's whatever. I still think the Eagles are going to be in the wild card chase. They are 2-2. They have beaten some decent teams so far. It's just the vibes are just nuclear here. The vibes.
It also didn't make sense because when you look at Tampa Bay's defense, they're 25th in the league in rush success, right? You can run against them. It just felt like they were trying to prove a point that they didn't need to do. I didn't get the game plan. And also defensively, like you're in the red zone, you're just going to go one-on-one Mike Evans there. That's a recipe for disaster, and Baker Mayfield exploited it. Just a bad overall coached game for Philadelphia. How do you see this ending? If you have to play with your crystal ball right now, how does this end for Philadelphia? How does it end for Nick Sirianni this year?
If they're not hovering above 500 by late in the season, then Sirianni's going to get fired. And I think the watch, because it goes this early bye, because of the way Lurie does things, the watch has to come late November, and the watch is also going to be what kind of like messaging is coming out of the locker room. You already got Bryce Huff mad, and frankly, I don't want to hear from Bryce Huff. You came from the Jets. We just gave you $1 zillion. Shit. So simmer down. Simmer down. You know, when the Slay and those guys are getting mad, that's who Lori will listen to, and then you'll see it. Question is, what do? Do you promote Kellen Moore then?
There's not. I would probably promote Vic before I promoted Kellen Moore at that point. He's got at least head coaching experience, so that would make a little bit more sense to me. I wonder who they would go after. I mean, are you going to go after Ben Johnson? Is that a guy who would leave Detroit to come play, to come coach Jalen Hurts in this offense? Maybe. I mean, he said before that he's not just going to take any job, and Philadelphia isn't just any job. Maybe you go for Mike Vrabel and see if you can poach him from Cleveland, give him a head coaching job. We'll see. There's not going to be a shortage of guys out there. We'll go to the NFC North now, where it's a bird, it's a plane. Oh no, it's Sam Darnold unleashing on the Green Bay Packers. They jump up to a 28-0 lead, and Sam Darnold continues to play really well. 20-28, 275 yards, 3 touchdowns. Did have an interception, but overall, the Minnesota Vikings 4-0. The Green Bay Packers did do their best to mount a comeback, and how fitting is it that Jordan Love showed up to the game wearing a Brett Favre jersey, and then he did his best Brett Favre impression, 32 of 54, 389, 4 touchdowns, 3 picks, almost leads them all the way back, but falls just short. The Minnesota Vikings defeat the Green Bay Packers 31-29 in what ended up being a second-half thriller. And the Minnesota Vikings, Mike, I don't want to continue to be skeptical, but from the history that I've seen, I'm kind of waiting for that other shoe to drop with Sam Darnold, but he keeps going out every week and playing well. But I'm going to revert back to what you said last week. They keep jumping out to these massive leads, and he's not under any pressure. Eventually, they're going to be, but as of right now, man, they are kicking so much ass.
Right. Yeah, and that is it. And of course, to his credit, he's out there, especially this week, delivering the passes to get that lead. It's not there were a couple of times where it was like the Texan games, it was turnover, and now you've got this lead. In this one, he had to go out there and distribute the ball, get the 21, 24. It was 28, 24 at some point. 28.
Yeah. 28-0. Yeah.
Right. So that's a credit to him. Someone on the Football Outsiders Discord mentioned Case Keenum. And my brain sort of lit up with the memory of the Case Keenum season with the Vikings. And this feels like a better team and a better start than the Case Keenum season, which you remember they went to the NFC Championship. And I think Darnold is playing better than Keenum, but there's a similar vibe there in this. This was a team that was stacked at wide receiver, had a lot of guys on defense, etc. So a quarterback going out there and playing like a professional, if things start breaking their way a little bit, can get those wins. And that's what I'm getting right now. Again, wake me up when September ends. This is the last day of September. Here's sort of my overall take, and I say this to the world, and I say this to our colleagues. Stop acting when you see a journeyman quarterback have a couple of good games in a row. Stop acting like an alien landed in Times Square. Journeyman quarterbacks have good games from time to time. The journeyman quarterback does not mean a piece of crap. That's what it seems to mean. Game manager quarterback, that means a piece of crap who can only win when there's 5 defensive touchdowns. That means somebody could go out there and have streaks where they can win some good games. Now, this is a really good run, but Baker Mayfield's also had a good run. Geno Smith's having a good run right now. This isn't abnormal. This is what veteran quarterbacks do when they have decent supporting casts around them.
Yeah, and in terms of Geno, Baker, Sam Darnold, more so toward the Sam Darnold and Baker side of things, the talent was never questioned. I think it was just a matter of finding a right fit to, get that talent to translate onto the field and into wins. Mm-hmm. And it's not as if Baker or Sam or Geno are all of a sudden top 10 quarterbacks. No, they're in that middle of the pack guys. You can win with them with the right situation and everything, right. But that last part is the big caveat. If you plug Sam Darnold into Kansas City right now, he's not doing the same things, I don't think. Or if you plugged him into, the Chargers, I don't think that he's going to be. So I think it's okay to acknowledge, okay, he's playing well, but that doesn't all of a sudden make him an elite quarterback, which he is not. But it's cool to see regardless, a guy who, started with the Jets, had a lot of high hopes, bounced around for a little bit, and we're seeing him have success. I had another thought in my head that seems to have escaped me when it comes
I
to
just love the whole. And I'm just doing this gag over and over again with like Baker Mayfield. Like, where did this come from? They won a playoff game last year.
Baker Mayfield won a playoff game with the Browns and the Buccaneers.
Yes.
Like, it's not as if he's a bad quarterback.
Yeah, he was in the playoffs with the Browns a couple of years ago. And last year they were in it. And like, where did this Buccaneers come from? And I was counting the guys with Super Bowl rings on the roster. It was like 11 of them. It's like the following people were in the Super Bowl 4 years. Levante David, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, Vita Vea, Tristan Wirfs. It's like, oh, that's right. They're good. They're older and they're not like spectacular. But of course, they're a playoff team, and Baker Mayfield can win football games.
And I think it's a lot of, the hot takey world that we live in, where you're either the greatest thing on the face of the planet or you're complete and utter shit. Like Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield more to an extent because he had playoff success at least. I think Sam Darnold was ever complete and utter garbage. Like it would be different right now if the Vikings were 4-0 with Kenny Pickett and he was playing like this. But Sam Darnold's not Kenny Pickett. Sam Darnold's not, this awful, historically bad quarterback. He's just, a quarterback that didn't pan out and is now just, thriving as a journeyman guy. And it's cool to see regardless. The Vikings continue to win games. And the Green Bay Packers now, find themselves in a situation where, Jordan Love's back and that's great. And I think he's going to be fine. But a lot of those picks yesterday were very Favre-esque.
Favre, if his 4 touchdown, 3 interception games were touchdown, interception, touchdown, interception, touchdown, interception, touchdown, win the game. Love was more like interception, interception, interception. Then he came around. I have a feeling he was rushed back a little bit.
I think so too.
Rusty a little bit, perhaps, and he was caught off guard, as so many are, by the Brian Flores defense. And like I think he can come around. There were also other things in that game. There were missed field goals by the Packers early on. Their kicking situation, once again, since Mason Crosby got old, is just like this disaster. And so there were these other little elements there that contributed to making it easier for the Vikings.
Yeah, and the Packers are still 500. I think they're going to be perfectly fine, especially in an NFC that's very, they're able. Everybody's just trying to figure shit out right now.
Everyone's 2-2.
Yep. To the AFC South, where Doug Peterson says, get fucked to accepting responsibility. The Jacksonville Jaguars are 0-4 after just a tumultuous display of coaching decisions. They were in the red zone, 4th and goal, up 20-17. They could have taken a field goal to go up 23-17 and put a little bit more pressure on the Houston Texans. Instead, they opt to go for it. They don't get it. Houston marches down the field, scores a game-winning touchdown. Jacksonville doesn't have enough time to score an answering touchdown to win. After the game, Doug Peterson was asked, hey, would you maybe consider taking over play calling duties from Press Taylor? To which he said, why would I do that? I thought he called a great game. It's a two-way street. Coaches coach, players have to make plays. And you know what? I think we're starting to see a little bit of that Doug Peterson in Philadelphia start to creep in. I think that this thing is all but over. I think Doug Peterson is completely checked out, and I think these players are too. Trevor Lawrence, by the way, the last couple of weeks hasn't looked good. He missed 2 really big throws in this game. Brian Thomas open in the end zone, Christian Kirk downfield that could have led to more points. I think Trevor Lawrence is losing confidence as well. And I think a lot of that has to do with A, I think he knows that the coach is all but gone. B, he's doesn't know if after the snap if he's going to be under pressure right away. So I think his footwork's off, his mechanics are off, he's rushing things. Everything's just out of whack in Jacksonville right now, and this thing isn't going to end well.
Agreed. I think Peterson is punching his ticket out. When he's checked out, he is checked out.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
No one quite checks out. Maybe Mike McCarthy checks out at that level. But Peterson checks out, and you can kind of see it in the preparation level of the team, and you're seeing that now with that team. What was I going to say there? Yeah. Oh, Press Taylor called a heck of a game. Like their first points are off of a muff punt.
Yeah.
Right. And then I wrote about, so the 4th down stop was Trevor Lawrence on a quarterback draw. I guess I honestly don't hate it because you're not expecting a quarterback draw. It's not like Cam Newton's out there or Josh Allen where there's 2 guys spying for the draw. There's like one sort of linebacker kind of floating out there. Lawrence doesn't want to run it, whatever. The play before that, they barely get it off. So it's 3rd and 1. And you can see like Lawrence is running to the line and he's trying to make calls, and the receivers and tight ends are like,
great. I guess we're doing this.
Right. And he tries to fire it in the back of the end zone to, I think, Gabriel Davis or somebody, and it's a misfire. And it's like, you don't know how to handle the goal line.
Yeah.
you're still acting like this is a rookie quarterback and a new coaching staff. They've been together for 3 years now, and you can't keep it together at the goal line. And that's just a sign of a lack of preparation, a lack of focus.
It's overall just not good. And I you know what, fellas, find you a woman who will defend you no matter your inadequacies the way that Doug Peterson defends Press Taylor, because this offense has yet to score more than 20 points in a game this season. And Doug Peterson is like, Press is my guy.
I know. Like Zach Taylor wouldn't even defend Press Taylor. This is Aaron Rodgers, Nathaniel Hackett level stuff.
It's not good. But Houston, they get another win. Now they host Buffalo next week in the Stephon Diggs revenge game, which should be a great contest.
Yeah.
And the Texans. I felt good about Houston coming in. They hit a little bit of a slump when they faced the Vikings, but CJ Stroud and company look really good right now. And I think that they could have this division wrapped up by like Thanksgiving. I don't know how I feel about the Colts. We'll talk about the Colts here in a second, but the Texans are the clear-cut best team in the AFC South.
Agreed. My research from yesterday, the Texans are on pace to commit 179 penalties for 1,385 yards this season.
Jesus Lord.
I don't know what the records are. I'm going to go on a hunt when I'm not like sleep deprived and try and get the records on that. But Laramie Tunsil alone has a dozen penalties.
That's rough.
That's
rough. I want to say the record is a Raiders team from like the mid 2000s.
It probably is. I don't know how far I can go back in the archives and get good accurate data. But it's probably those Raiders teams were notorious, like 25 roughing the passer fouls, a month or whatever.
That sounds like a Tom Cable Raiders team to me. That owns that record. If I had to guess, just to guess. We'll stay in the AFC South though, because Joe Flacco comes in relief for an injured Anthony Richardson in what was one of the more bizarre sequences I've seen in recent years. Anthony Richardson gets hit, immediately grabs his hip, comes out for a couple plays, goes back in. Immediately, Shane Steichen says, quarterback draw. And then he gets hit again, and then he's ruled out for the rest of the game. But it didn't matter. The Colts were already up 14-0 at this point. They go up 17-0 after the Steelers fail to convert a 4th and 1. Pittsburgh tries rushing back in the second half. Justin Fields leads 3 consecutive scoring drives. He ran for 2 touchdowns, threw a touchdown to Pat Freiermuth. They are up. The Colts are up 27-24 when the Steelers get the ball back, and then an errant snap into the face of Justin Fields pushes the Steelers back 12 yards, and that was basically the end of the game. The Colts hold on to win. The Colts in this game, 6 of 10 on 3rd and 5 or longer. The Steelers defense, especially in the middle of the field, was eaten alive by the likes of Josh Downs and Michael Pittman, who had a big game. Joey Porter Jr. had probably his worst game as a pro. And the Steelers defense, that is the highest paid unit in the NFL, did not look it, and they let down their offense in a lot of ways in this game. But the Colts come away victorious to give the Steelers.
I love how we're blaming the defense to protect our dinky. So let's restack. The score is 17-3. Late in the third quarter. It is 17-3. The field goal came on a drive after, I forget if it was a turnover or not, followed by a penalty, and you get a field goal before halftime. So late in the third quarter, it is 17-3. And then we get this little surge of offense. And they get a couple touchdowns. They get a couple throws. It's basically Pickens running around.
Right.
And Freiermuth. Okay. But tell me how this is different from last year's team again.
Oh, my goodness. Don't you dare do this.
Tell me how this is different from last year's team where it was 17-3 late in the third quarter. But then Kenny Pickett makes a couple of plays at the end, and maybe they get a win or maybe they get a loss. Tell me how it's different. I'll wait.
All right. I will happily tell you. Do you know how many 300-yard passing games with 3 total touchdowns Kenny Pickett had as a Steeler? Grand total is 0. You know how many 300-yard passing games Kenny Pickett had as a Steeler? He had 1, and it was his first career start against the Buffalo Bills when they lost 38-3.
Okay. How many 300-yard passing games does Justin Fields have? 1?
I think I'd have to go back and look. But he was the first Steelers quarterback since Cordell Stewart in 2001 to have 300 passing yards and 55 rushing yards in a game.
We're going to pull rushing yards out. We're going to.
Of course we are. You can't not factor that in. He was doing
when they're not accomplishing anything.
Oh, in the second half they certainly were. Now I'm not going to pretend Fields didn't have any faults in this game. There was a play where they were in field goal range and 2 unblocked rushers come off the edge and Fields runs backwards for 15 yards and eats a sack and fumbles. That was bad. It was horrible. I'm not saying he played perfect, but the highest paid defense in the NFL, giving up 6 of 10 on 3rd and 5 or longer to Joe Flacco, not getting any pressure, that's a problem. The fact that Jonathan Taylor and the Colts were able to rush for 133 yards on 4 yards a carry, that's a problem. I understand that even the best defenses aren't going to be just incomparable.
Aren't going to somehow score more than 3 points.
And look, the Steelers came out in the second half firing. Like I said, they had 3 consecutive scoring drives, and if not for George Pickens fumbling in the red zone in the first half, maybe they complete the comeback and win the entire thing, and win 30-27 or something like that.
Sounds like something that was probably said after a lot of games last year.
I don't think so. The Steelers with Kenny Pickett last year, they scored more than 21 points once, and that was against Cleveland when the defense had 2 scores. So again, from an outsider's perspective, who doesn't watch the Steelers die hard, like I understand how it could look, but this is not the same.
As if I didn't watch that game and I haven't.
I'm not saying you didn't watch it. I'm just saying in general for people who just like look at the box score and see the score and how things went out. I can understand it. I'm not pointing a finger at you per se, right. But this is. I feel much more confident in this team than I did in years past.
There you go. It's a feeling. This is. They're still like not scoring for 3 quarters, but it's the defense's fault and it's a feeling. Hooked on a feeling.
Oh my goodness.
A Justin Fields feeling.
Justin Fields didn't allow the first play from scrimmage, a 42-yard connection to Michael Pittman, and allow the Colts just to march down the field 2 straight drives to put up 14 points and get down 17-0. Now, they are banged up offensively as well in the offensive line, where they lost James Daniels, their starting guard, to an Achilles tear. They were without Isaac Samalo in this game. Troy Fatanu did not play in this game as well. Yeah. They also can't run the ball with Najee Harris. He had 19 yards on 13 carries, and they're looking smarter and smarter for not picking up that 5th-year option every day. Cordero Patterson had 43 yards on 7 yards a carry before he got hurt. So there's a lot of things wrong with this team, especially offensively. And I hope that they don't have to lean on that defense too much like they did last year, but it certainly feels like that's going to be the trend.
Sounds like that's how it's going to go again.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate.
I'm sorry, the trolling is too easy. The trolling is too easy.
Well, I'll keep pushing back, and that's fine. I'll stand atop Justin Fields' mountain. I will do it.
Justin Fields is slightly better than Kenny Pickett, and I will concur with that. 100.
He's not slightly better than Kenny Pickett. He's severely better than Pickett.
Slightly better. Better.
You and I aren't going to agree on this, and that's okay. That's fine. We don't have to. Let's go to Carolina. We'll stay in the AFC North, where the Cincinnati Bengals finally get a few plays to go their way defensively. They get an interception into the hands of Von Bell, which leads to a really great catch and run by Jamar Chase. And that kind of set the tone for Cincinnati. They were able to get the ball in the end zone with Brown and Moss. Joe Burrow looked good. The defense played well, getting an interception of Andy Dalton. Although it looked a little bit closer at times, the Bengals pulled away for a 34-24 win to get their first win of the year. They will play Baltimore next week. And if they fall to 1-4, I don't care how good the quarterback is and how everybody's all believe in Burrow. That's a cooked team if you're 1-4 through 5. I think that this is still in must-win territory to continue digging themselves out of this hole. But they're 1-3 right now, and they finally looked like a glimmer of the Bengals that we've seen before.
Yeah, 1-4 with your win against the Panthers isn't going to impress anybody. And obviously, the Panthers are a little better now than they were 2 weeks ago. They lost Shaq Thompson during that game. That's a problem. Bengals got a 4th down stop at the 1-yard line.
That was big, yep.
That was a big help. They stopped a fake punt. That was a help. You mentioned the interception there. I am not buying into them as anything but sort of this tough out, kind of in the rearview mirror moving on. Again, we'll see what happens next week. But defense still isn't impressing me because they were the Panthers moved the ball on them regularly. We know what they can do offensively. I don't know if it's going to be enough week in and week out.
They definitely need to figure out the defensive side of the ball more so than the offensive side of the ball. The offenses play well, but the fact that, you let Jaden Daniels come into your building, Jaden Daniels has played well, obviously, but a Commanders team that's still, figuring stuff out and just go bombs away. Even the Panthers, like Andy Dalton, let me pull up his stats real quick. Andy Dalton played like a respectable game here. It's not as if they blew out the Panthers. Let me pull it up real quick to see.
He had a strong game. They're playing without Thielen, who was like his binky. Their binky most of the time. He's out
his
there.
binky.
Yeah, I would say he was a security blanket for
Yeah.
Muggsy Young, and then Dalton knew to get him the ball, but he was out. So it was Deontay Johnson, it was Xavier Legette. But yeah, his number. What were his numbers?
He was 25 of 40, 220 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. Chuba Hubbard ran the ball for 104 yards on 6 yards of carry and a touchdown. So they still can't stop the run, which is a problem, especially when you're playing a Ravens team who will see that, lick their lips, and be like, "All right, Derrick Henry, here's 35 carries, go crazy." That's a big issue. I'm certainly worried about what time is that game next week. I assume that's not a 1:00 game. That feels like a primetime game.
Well, you got your Steelers are at night.
They're at night. Yep.
It
might be a 4:25 game.
That's the 1:00 marquee matchup. Ooh,
okay.
Bills Texans and Ravens Bengals are 1:00 marquee matchups. Are we getting this little run when the 4 o'clock games stink? We sometimes get that as the baseball playoffs.
I don't. Oh yeah, I guess that sort of makes sense then. Yeah, once baseball playoffs start. Yeah, it's.
Oh yeah,
that is a great stacked window though. That's a CBS window that's going to get a lot of views. Good for CBS.
Beautiful. That is a beautiful stacked window. I think Fox is showing baseball or something, because the 4 o'clocks are kind of meh, and then you got the big Steelers Cowboys on Sunday night. But yeah, that's like a 1:00 round robin to get a real feel for the for the AFC, because I believe the Chiefs are on bye. No,
who do the Chiefs play next week?
Chiefs are on Monday night against the Saints. But
lovely. Good stuff all around. But yeah, if the Bengals want to have a snowball's chance in hell of beating the Ravens, they got to stop the run.
They've got to tackle. They've got to tackle.
That's another thing. There's been a lot of bad tackling around the NFL this year. I don't know if that's like a new-ish trend, but tackle. That's my expert analysis on that. Just tackle him. All right, to the Meadowlands and a soggy game between Bo Nix and the Broncos and Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. At what point in this game, Bo Nix had -9 passing yards? And that basically was this game in a nutshell. Denver's defense continues to impress week in and week out as they held the New York Jets to just 9. But even then, a chance to win at the end with a 50-yard field goal that gets pushed wide, and the Broncos hold on to win their second straight road game and go back to Mile High 2-2. And the New York Jets, okay, we're in limbo territory. How long until Aaron Rodgers forces Robert Saleh out and Nathaniel Hackett is named the head coach of the New York Jets?
You hear about this whole false start controversy? Are you down with this?
Oh no, what did I miss on the false start controversy?
So there were 5. This I rewatched this one, like I focused on it this morning.
Okay,
I will never get that time in my life back. Oh my god. There were multiple false starts by the and motion penalties by the Jets.
Okay.
And Robert
Saleh
said afterwards that the cadence was an issue. Now this morning he said, no, it's not that the cadence is an issue.
Oh Lord.
Rodgers was like, well, I mean, the cadence kind of is what it is. It's up to everybody else to go when they're supposed to go. And so Saleh walked it back. And now we're already in this. You talk about limbo.
Yeah.
It's like Aaron Rodgers in his feels. And in fairness, he is the quarterback. He's had multiple cadences for a long time. They practice these things. These guys should be able to not jump off sides. On the other hand, the fact that this has to turn into turmoil is very uniquely Rodgers, very uniquely Jets.
Yeah. And I think you said it right. It's very uniquely Rodgers, where I feel like everybody's kind of always walking on eggshells with what they say. Mm-hmm. And like I like Aaron Rodgers, and that said, though, I can very much acknowledge that he's a bit of an egomaniac, and stuff like this tends to be the norm with Aaron Rodgers. And we'll see. They can't run the ball. That's a problem, which they're putting a lot on Rodgers' plate. That was supposed to be like the godsend. It was like, okay, Aaron Rodgers, we don't need you to be Superman. We'll give the ball to Breece Hall. We'll be able to run the ball. They haven't been able to do that, and that's put a lot more on Rodgers' plate. And it's impacted the offense. In terms of the Broncos offense, you know what Bo Nix's stat line was yesterday?
Can you give me the whole stat line?
12 of 25 for 60 yards and a touchdown. How about it?
Now, I'll say this. Both quarterbacks, it was the field was so wet. The ball
was bad. Yeah.
Like nobody's getting open downfield because the game speed is slowed down a little bit in terms of cutting and everything. And even Rodgers bounced a couple passes because you don't necessarily grip the ball. Anything Nick threw more than 10 yards downfield was random. It was just randomly like squirting out of his hand and going every which way, which left nothing but his patented sideways check down behind the line of scrimmages. And you talk about the negative 9 yards, and it came by honestly because throw after throw went to McLaughlin and Javonte
Williams, yeah.
And like there was another guy who was catching the ball in the flat, tackled immediately. So it is here you drop all the way back, dump it in the flat. Guy turns around, tackle, loss of 1, loss of 2, gets back to the line of scrimmage. So we have a lot of completions for 0 in the thing. And it was painstaking to watch because you're right. The Jets would get the ball back. They would fail to run the ball. There would be a false start.
Yeah.
Rodgers would throw one really nice pass, and then he'd have to throw the ball away because of the pass rush or something.
Yeah.
Like that. And it was like, I think there were 17 punts in that game.
That's gross. Yeah. Let's, Rodgers on the day, 24-42, 225 yards. And yeah, on the ground, Braylon Allen, 8 for 34. Rodgers was the second leading rusher with 26 yards. Breece Hall, 10 carries for 4 yards for Breece Hall. That's just not going to get it done. And like I said, the Jets very much suffered because of it. Thomas Morstead punted 7 times for the Jets. Let's see how many punts the Broncos had. Drum roll, please. Riley Dixon, 8 punts. So 15 punts in this game.
15.
Pretty great.
It felt like more than 15 punts. I think like 12 of them were in the first half.
I don't plan on rewatching that game because for work purposes, I don't have to. So I pity you for having to do such things on this Monday morning. Let's go to the Windy City in Chicago. The Chicago Bears defense, to me at least, was the story of this game, holding the Rams to 18 points. Caleb Williams' touchdown pass to DJ Moore ended up being what sealed the deal. But even so, Caleb Williams, if you look at his numbers, still not playing to that level that they need him to be. 17 of 23, $157 and a touchdown. It is better, one of his better games so far. But overall, the Bears will seem a little bit sluggish offensively. A lot of checkdowns to DeAndre Swift and Cole Kmet. DJ Moore finished the day 3 catches for 22 yards and that touchdown on 6 targets. But for the Rams, the injuries are starting to become a real problem. Well, I mean, they overcame them last week and were able to beat the 49ers, but going on the road against a good defense, Matthew Stafford threw one of the worst red zone interceptions I've seen in a minute, where he just threw it to Daquan Brisker like he was the intended target, and the Bears were able to take over. Kyrie Williams had a nice game, 94 yards and a touchdown on 19 carries. But overall, I mean, nobody's able to get consistent separation when there's no Cooper Kupp, no Puka Nacua. Tutu Atwell led the way with 4 catches and 82 yards. But yeah, this is again, the weather wasn't great for this game either in Chicago. And yeah, the Rams now at 1-3. The Bears get to back to 500 at 2-2. And now the question is for the Rams, what do you do? Because you're 1-3. Yeah, theoretically you're still in it, but it's not going to be an easy road to get there, especially in that division where the Seahawks are still undefeated. The 49ers are the 49ers. And I mean, Arizona right now, you're sharing a record with them.
Right.
I don't know what the rest of the season looks like for the Rams. I think it's just going to have to come down to McVay voodoo magic and hoping for good things to happen.
Yeah, I think this already feels like a lost season for them. And I don't know, like, add somebody to trade deadline with what? And sell, give somebody away at the trade deadline. We're not trading Matthew Stafford, Chase Daniel. This isn't happening. So this is one I didn't watch. The one thing I did notice, the Bears were able to run the ball finally. Swift had a pretty good game running the ball. They had nothing there. And if you can run the ball a little bit, then you can create balance. Checkdowns are not bad. I don't want to hear, oh no, Caleb Williams just checking down to Cole Kmet and DeAndre Swift. Good. You're a rookie. Let your defense distribute the ball, get some first down, play sequential offense. Don't play hero ball. That's a positive development for him.
You know what? That's a valid point. I take back any criticism I had. I've yet to watch this game back. I had it on Red Zone and everything, but it's not one that I've watched back yet. Overall, yeah, you're right. DeAndre Swift, 93 yards on 16 carries. Roshan Johnson at 26 yards. So they were able to pound the rock against Rams defensive front that has a lot of young guys on it. They have Fisk and Verse and I think Michael Hoyt as well. Obviously, they missed Donald in the middle to be able to be that de facto cheat code to be like, all right, get us out of a bind here defensively, Aaron. But yeah, the Bears, they were a team that I predicted to be the 7th seed in the NFC playoff picture. I might pull back a little bit on that, but so far, I mean, they're 500 through 4 games.
Yeah. Defense looks good.
Defense looks really good. Yeah. Did you see that there was a players meeting with Shane Waldron to say like, hey, like, let's get a little bit more aggressive offensively. This is very vanilla stuff. Did you see the story about that?
Who led the players only meeting?
I think, who did I see it? I want to say that Keenan Allen was there, Caleb Williams was in it, and one of the running backs, it might have been Swift, or it might have been both Swift and Johnson. But when you're having meetings this early, like, dude, come on, like, let's open things up a little bit. Yeah. I suppose it's better to do it now than like week 8.
Right, and it's better to do it than to start sniping through the press or like come to your dad or whatever else might these guys might be inclined to do.
Right. To the NFC South, the Atlanta Falcons benefit from one of the oddest fielded punt attempts I've ever seen. Tried to catch it at the 1. The Falcons were covered in the end zone, and from there, they just kind of took off. Ended up being somewhat of a back and forth game. Derek Carr played well. Both teams looked good in this game. We saw that the Saints offense was able to run the ball a little bit. Alvin Kamara had 77 yards and a touchdown. Taysom Hill had 2 scores in the red zone. Carr had 239 yards through the air. But Atlanta leading a game-winning drive for Young Hoku to kick the game-winning field goal, 26-24 for the Falcons, who currently sit at 2-2, as do the Saints, losing their 2nd straight game. You know, the Saints were like the darlings of the first 2 weeks of the league because they put up 1 billion points, and Clint Kubiak was you could write in Clint Kubiak for president 2 weeks ago, and he might win. But now they've come down to earth a little bit. I don't know how to feel about either of these teams because they play in a division that, you know, was regarded as the worst in football coming into the year. They're both sitting at 500. Nothing about them says okay, they can go deep into the playoffs, but one team has to win this division. Right. And right now it looks like Tampa Bay is going to be that team, but in an NFC where you can get a wild card spot, these two teams are going to be in it until the end. And right now I just don't know what to make of Atlanta with Kirk, and is Kubiak and the Saints offense going to rebound?
The offense actually played pretty well. You mentioned the punt return attempt by Shaheed from the 2-yard line.
No, I don't know what that was.
You need to go watch the Eagles punt return attempts yesterday to see truly majestic fuck-ups. I have never seen somebody get run into twice, once by an opponent who got thrown into him and once by a teammate. But that happened to Cooper DeJean. So Shaheed makes that obvious mistake. That's 7 points for the Falcons, or whatever, 6 points. Interception return up the sideline, pick 6.
Yep.
50 yards. You know, when the Saints were driving, there's 7 more points. 58-yard Younghoe Koo game-winning field goal after a pass interference penalty. That's the other 3 points. So we just accounted for we're at the 17 points.
17 of their 24 points.
17 of the 24 points, which gives you a sense that the Saints right now are actually kind of playing okay, but similar things happened against the Eagles where they were driving and not necessarily getting the points. The Eagles were driving and then stopping themselves.
Yeah.
I still think the Saints are pretty good. Falcons are the Falcons. This is they're 7-win, 8-win teams that, and credit to them, they're in every game. But that was a game where if you actually replayed it again and again and call a fair catch or let the ball bounce into the end zone, there's a probably different result. Yeah,
and Dennis Allen talked about it after the game, and he said that exact thing. He's like, we can't spot them 14 points and expect to win. Right. And credit to him for taking the accountability and being we can't do those types of things and expect to just put 40 on the board every week. That's a good team, a division opponent. It's not going to work.
Right.
All right, moving on from Atlanta, we'll go to, where are we going to go next? Oh, San Francisco. Yeah, Fred Warner, a pick 6 off Jacoby Brissett, who by the end of this game looked like Vince Vaughn in Wedding Crashers after getting sacked by Sack Lodge. He's just laying flat on the ground begging for the sweet release of death as the San Francisco 49ers beat the New England Patriots 30-13. It was a very much-needed get-right game for the 49ers after consecutive losses. They, much like just about everybody else in the NFC, are 2-2 and look like their old selves again, which was good to see for the offense. George Kittle had a really nice touchdown catch, and the offense just looked really good. Fred Warner was doing Fred Warner things. The Patriots are bad, but Jerron Mayo, fear not, Jacoby Brissett's still the starting quarterback, no matter how much he might not want to be. Yeah, I'm very much in on the 49ers, getting back to in the swing of things.
Right.
With McCaffrey out, though, like there's a clear ceiling on this team, though. And that's great that you beat up a bad team. You should beat up a bad team. I'm not taking anything away from them there after losing 2 straight. But there's still like this lingering thing with San Francisco where it's just like, okay, but what about Christian?
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's amazing. We've talked about injuries throughout this podcast. And
yeah,
every time we've mentioned like 3 or 4 or 5 injuries and like, look at what's going on here. All the linebackers for the Bills, all the receivers for the Eagles and everything. And then we get to the 49ers. Oh my God, we were without a running back. Oh no. I know a couple of the other guys were hurt, and Kittle and Debo came storming back to save them because when they were hurt, you lost to the Rams, who have a million injuries themselves. Yeah. But oh my God, what are we going to do without Christian McCaffrey, a running back? Go out there and be the 49ers. Now, Fred Warner also did get hurt in that game. I don't know what the situation is. But you're the 49ers. If you're the class of the NFC, act like it and show us you can do this next man up thing. And again, I know that's a bit with me now, but like, what are we talking about? We're talking about a running back. We're talking about a running back.
Yeah, and I can get on board with it a little bit, though, because like the 49ers made it to a Super Bowl without Christian McCaffrey beforehand and were in multiple NFC championship games before he got there with Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback. Like, it feels kind of like a built-in excuse for them, but they do have a lot of they have Brandon Ayuk, who they just gave a boatload of money to. They have Deebo Samuel, who they gave a boatload of money to. They have George Kittle, who they gave a boatload of money to. Like,
right. You have Trent Williams at left tackle. You have this line. Yeah. Brock Purdy has turned into the guy. While all of us, so I just did my anti-49er shtick. Now I'll do my anti-49er shtick. While all of the film sniffers were out there, being like, well, actually, let's look at the play calling, the decision-making process on this dagger concept and trying to will people into being great quarterbacks and poo-pooing Brock Purdy as the session beer of great quarterbacks. Purdy's been going out there. He leads the league in DER. He's in other categories. He's done it without some of his weapons for some of these games. Yeah. In these losses that have happened, he has not been the problem, save for maybe a couple of sacks in the Vikings game, which again, the Vikings are doing that to everybody. He's playing exceptionally well, which is really to the credit of him and to the credit of Shanahan. Now let's see them build on this and continue to put together a resume where they're not tripping over opponents when something goes wrong.
Yeah, 288 yards on 15 completions for him yesterday and the touchdown to Kittle. Jordan Mason, 123 yards on the ground and a touchdown. So, I mean, realistically, with this, at least with those running scheme and with Shanahan calling the shots, like Jordan Mason has looked great thus far this season. So you wouldn't expect them to miss too much of a beat. And we'll see how it goes going forward for the 49ers. They're still going to be one of the favorites in the NFC.
They're going to be great. I'm going to look at their schedule going. If you look at that division, we're going to see the Seahawks tonight. I'm not a Seahawks believer. They get the Cardinals next week. They should get up at home.
You don't think Geno Stone is a top 5 quarterback, or Geno Smith is a top 5 quarterback?
I mean, he's kind of fine. I just they're playing the Lions tonight. Their entire defensive line is injured. Their entire defensive line is injured. And I'm looking down the horizon. Yeah, I see the Cowboys coming up. That might be a tough test. I see the Chiefs. Obviously, that's a tough test. Bills come later in the season. The 49ers should be absolutely fine. But again, absolutely fine is not the goal for the San Francisco 49ers. Just like the Bills, it is a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And so that's the expectation, the standard you're held to.
Very much so. Speaking of those Kansas City Chiefs playing the Los Angeles Chargers in what was a rock fight for 60 minutes. Which is, the game that the Chargers would have wanted to play. If I would have told you that the Chiefs only had 10 points in the fourth quarter, the Chargers probably would have felt pretty good about their chances. Mm-hmm. Especially if I also told you that Patrick Mahomes committed friendly fire and shattered the leg of Rashee Rice in the process.
Oh my God.
But alas, Samaje Perine gets a game-winning touchdown in the fourth quarter. The Chargers are unable to answer, and Justin Herbert showed as much personality as I've ever seen him show by slamming his helmet against the bench in frustration after the second straight loss for the Chargers after a 2-0 start, and the Chiefs escape with yet another close, low-scoring win. I know that we do this thing every year with the Chiefs when they start off slow. It's just like, yeah, this might be the time. I haven't seen Mahomes play this bad before, which I know to his standards is still like a fine quarterback, but like he hasn't played great.
Who's he throwing to? Who's running the ball?
Yeah, that's factual. That's fair.
And that's a big part because I do say he's going around. He's trying to create do these things, and then you start pressing and you start making like mistakes or like trying to force balls into crazy places. But now he has nobody except Xavier Worthy and the desiccating husk of Travis Kelce to throw to. He doesn't have Pacheco in the backfield, so Kareem Hunt is now and Perrine are coming in to do this, and Max Power or whatever the kid's name is, Chaz Steele.
Carson Steele,
name kid, is out there doing it, and so. Like, I'm with you, like, again, and so, like, this, it's like the broken record. The Bills are going to be fine because that division is not going to put up a fight. The 49ers are going to be fine because they're getting guys healthy now, and that division isn't going to put up a fight. That division is not putting up a fight. So the Chiefs have to say, who are we going to be come January? And that we don't know the answer to. It looks like Royce is gone. Pacheco should be back by then. Maybe we see Hollywood Brown. Maybe Xavier Worthy takes a step forward, making that maybe they make a trade at the deadline. They're the team, and Aaron Schatz and I were talking about earlier, probably wants to make these phone calls and be aggressive at the deadline because Devontae Adams ain't going to the Chiefs. That ain't happening. Amari Cooper,
our mutual buddy Matt Verderam, who big Chiefs guy, writer for Sports Illustrated. Amari Cooper is the one that he posed just because of the immediate salary they would take on isn't very big. I think his base is $2 million. DeAndre Hopkins may be another name that's been floating around right now. So I would fully expect them to add somebody at the deadline. And to the point of who's Mahomes throwing to, we've seen that before though, right? Where it's okay, he's got Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore. All right, but he's still doing Mahomes things. So even to that standard, like he's playing below that. And I'm not going to say it's concerning again. It's September. It's the first 4 games of the year, and they're 4-0. So I'm not going to be the person who says, oh, this is the year, because until it's proven that it is that year, I'm not going to say it. But I saw somebody say, like, the Chiefs are going to go 16-1 with a point differential of like -4, and that made me laugh. I thought that was pretty great.
Yeah. I mean, for it to be that year, I'd have to think a year. This is a year they go 7-10. It's not going to be that year. No. They're going to lose in the divisional round because of
darn.
Right. I mean, that's not like the year. That's like, well, football happens.
Yeah.
Right. And that's something I could definitely say. It's like, the Bills absolutely have their number because they're at full strength in the divisional playoffs, or the Texans get them, or whatever. That, certainly I could see that. Don't try to sell me the idea that they're going to go 7-10 or something like that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely not. One team that might go 7-10 in the AFC West just beat another team that will be happy to go 7-10 in the AFC North at this point. The Las Vegas Raiders, sans Max Crosby and Devontae Adams, beat the Cleveland Browns in what was a very good defensive showing from the Raiders, and had Browns players yelling at each other on the field, on the sideline. Jameis Winston was in the huddle trying to be peacemaker. It did not work.
I missed that. What happened?
Oh, yeah, like Deshaun Watson's yelling at offensive linemen. They're getting into it on the sideline. Jameis Winston rushes in to try to make everybody sing Kumbaya and hold hands. But unfortunately, it was not enough for the Cleveland Browns, or fortunately, if you're someone like me and looks at that as a positive thing. Watson goes 24 of 32 for 176 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. They had, in this game, Watson threw to a wide-open Amari Cooper for like an 80-yard touchdown, and it got negated for a holding call, and that was just chef's kiss. For things that you love to see. But for the Raiders, Gardner Minshew didn't do anything incredible. 14 of 24, 130 yards. They did spread the ball out when it came to running the ball. 60 yards for Alexander Mattison, 50 yards for Zamir White. DJ Turner had an 18-yard touchdown run. Trey Tucker had a 3-yard touchdown run. So it was very much a boring offensive plan, but it got the job done against a Browns team that is just, we know how bad they are. We don't have to speculate on if Deshaun Watson's ever going to be. He's not. Right. And right now at 1-3, you got to wonder, like we've been wondering all season, really dating back to last season, are they just going to pull the plug on this Deshaun Watson thing and move forward with Jameis Winston? What are they going to do? I don't know, but they're a bad football team. The Raiders get a win at home and get to 2-2. But yeah, I think the big story here is the Browns continue to be the Browns.
The most interesting thing about all this, and we can talk about how like the Browns offensive line's injured, Jarrett's coming in and out of the game, Joku's hurt. You're paying Deshaun Watson to still be a quarterback who can beat the Raiders under those circumstances.
Without Crosby, without like all these stars, okay.
Right. You've got Cooper, Judy, you still got parts of that line, and you should just go out there and be able to manufacture a win, and you can't do it. The most interesting thing is, especially of all the chatter that came out about how, the players preferred Jameis Winston. You know, like there's like a friction thing where he's considered the locker room leader because for whatever reason people don't respond to Deshaun Watson very
much. That? Why wouldn't they respond to Deshaun Watson? He seems like a high caliber citizen.
Right. And even if you're like, well, you know, I'm not going to think about this off the field stuff. Seems like the kind of guy who probably has a rotten soul, but like the corroded from within individual.
He just seems like a guy who's like, I'm Deshaun Watson and you're not. Like one of those attitudes.
Right. Like you think maybe he's a little bit conceited and a little bit egocentric, somebody who does the things he does. Anyway. So, but Jameis generally is a rah-rah guy on the locker room, and it's interesting that he's going to go in there and start doing leadership type stuff on the sideline.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
It's just a whole mess there, and I gotta wonder, like, especially with Kevin Stefanski, who like knows that he can win with just like fine quarterback play, just the bare minimum quarterback play. He can win with that because we saw him do that for a stretch last year, and then Joe Flacco had a renaissance where he just said, I'm going to throw it deep every play, and sometimes it's going to work. Like we've seen what he can do, and he's a 2-time coach of the year because of it. I just got to wonder eventually, and Verderam and I talked about this, and he made the point where he's like, is he just going to march into Jimmy Haslam's office and be like, Jim, I'm not doing this anymore. Either I'm benching him or you're trading me because I'm not doing this.
That probably is how it has to go because, again, it's tied up with all that guaranteed money.
Yeah.
In fact, the guaranteed money stretched out over multiple years, et cetera, that you almost have to do like a mutiny type of thing to get this moving if Haslam is really tied up in this. You know, I just, you know, the number of times I watch Watson play action, drop back, and be like, derp. Are you going to tell me nothing is open while you're just standing back there? And then like the pass rush comes, and pass rush is coming a little more quickly now because people are blitzing and also because some of your guys are out. And then he tries to do these scrambles like he's Lamar Jackson. That's like, you're not that fast, dude.
It's even on the last play of the game where I believe like he had time and he's running to the left and he gets chased down by somebody who you wouldn't think is faster than him, but lo and behold, they were able to track him down and make a play. I'm trying to look for the name of Isaiah Polamalu, the nephew of Troy Polamalu, had a big game as well. His first start had a pass deflection, had to start because of injury, and he played well. So that was a fun little story to come from this.
I'm only midway through the third quarter on NFL Plus, by the way, while getting caught up on that game. Now I know that what happened at the end. I saw the final sack and things like that, but I'm only getting caught up in exactly how the Raiders did this. And again, Jarrett was in and out of the game. He had a sack or two. Somebody else got hurt, and I'm losing track of everything. And like you start getting gouged up the middle. Browns are getting gouged up the middle. And part of that sometimes is a defense that's on the field a lot and starts pressing to make big plays. And that's where guys start like losing gap containment and things like that. And suddenly you're getting 8, 9, 10-yard runs by Madison and people like that.
Yeah. And for Cleveland now, I mean, being 1-3 in a division where, the Steelers are still 3-1. I don't expect them to beat Pittsburgh. Cincinnati's still Cincinnati. Baltimore's 1-2 straight. Like, I don't know. I think it's stick a fork in them.
Right. I mean, you look at anything you say of a narrative. How do the Ravens take the lead? Keep playing like they played the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Ravens take the lead. How do the Steelers do it? Okay, Fields is better than Pickett. Defense is still great. You can hang around there. What do the Bengals do? The Bengals are awake right now. They got, Burrow, Chase, Higgins, etc. Tell me the Browns storyline, and without saying, well, Deshaun Watson in 2019, blah, 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 without saying that.
I legitimately think like you've got to rely on the defense being ungodly good, get you multiple turnovers a game in plus territory, and hope to God you can at least get a couple field goals out of that. Like their process and their equation for wins is so complex right now that it's just hard to find any sort of path for them to get to the playoffs.
Oh, and also one of those great Deshaun Watson touchdown seasons. They were like 4-12.
Yeah, I think it was 2020. Yeah, because he like led the NFL in passing that year and they won 4 games. So even then.
Right. Right. Maybe we were seeing a little tiny bit of a mirage that year.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
But that is every game on the Sunday slate from week 4 covered by you and I, my friend. Do you have any sort of, I don't want to say bold takes because that's stupid and I hate like all the, but you know what I mean? Is there anything that maybe has surprised you, something that you expect to see, maybe something that just something? maybe anything fun.
I mean, obviously the Vikings have surprised me. That's absolutely the case. As I said earlier, the rise of these journeyman quarterbacks, I find it heartening. And you can throw Dalton in there.
Yeah.
You can
Flacco in from last year too.
Flacco from last year and then coming out and playing pretty well this year. This whole mentality where we spend August, Caleb Williams makes one throw, and it's like, well, he's clearly Patrick Mahomes 2.0, and he's ready to start now. And anyone who suggests that he's not ready to start now is some kind of hater. And I'm like, this is what rookies and inexperienced quarterbacks look like. And then when these journeymen come out here, like, this is what somebody who knows how to check down, somebody who can actually audible out of play and do some of these basics can do when things are rolling in their favor. Carr is another one. I just, and the thing that bothers me is I like everybody is kind of on board with this right now, and draft season will come along, and Prime's kid and the kid from Texas. Why every name is it's gonna be
Quinn Ewers from Texas.
And every one of them is going to be a generational talent who's 100% ready to play. And, do we give him the start or we give that journeyman piece of crap
do we give that sacrilegious piece of shit who hates puppies the start?
Who? Andy fucking Dalton. Oh, the guy who went out there, won a game, rescued the team, went out there, kind of threw a scare into the next team, played well for a couple of weeks. That guy? Oh, heaven forbid we play that motherfucker.
Oh, that is how it is with every fan base, though, isn't it? It's like a guy gets drafted, like, who the fuck wants that guy to start?
Right.
Oh, that's tremendous.
Right. Darnold's out there just crushing everything. Well, clearly we misread the level of talent with this guy, or maybe he's like, the 17th to 35th best guy in the NFL. Yeah. Has been. But like when he sucks, say, screw it, and we throw him away. And that's
you mean to tell me that the Vikings shouldn't give Sam Darnold an extension and trade JJ McCarthy?
Oh my
God! You don't think that they should do that, Mike?
No, I don't think they should do that. But if they decided to do it, I mean, someone came. I have no idea, But like, no, I don't think they should do that because again, I see very much of a Case Keenum situation. But yeah. But like Darnold, okay, maybe Darnold next year is starting for the Giants or somebody like that. But there's a chance in 2 years that he's on the journeyman circuit again.
Yeah. We've seen that plenty of times. We saw that with Trubisky, right? When he started for the Bears, had a rehab year in Buffalo, went to Pittsburgh, and is now he's back in Buffalo as the backup because he couldn't cut it as a starter. Like,
right. And then I forget how bad Trubisky was, but there was a rush to get Kenny Pickett in because he was so ready.
Ready. Yeah. Kenny Pickett was really ready. He's so ready that he got traded to Philadelphia.
Ready.
I'm actually going to write about this whole thing in terms of like quarterbacks that may not have been put in the right situation at first, but kind of coming back. So Darnold, Baker, Geno, Flacco, a little bit of Dalton in there as well. Yeah. I think they're kind of changing how teams look at quarterbacks as a whole and look at that whole process because Baker, successful in Tampa Bay, he's won a playoff game. He's got him sitting at 3-1. Obviously, Darnold's playing well right now. So maybe we're going to see a little bit of a change of how teams go about the quarterback position because of how well that they've played.
Maybe. And just, I don't know how much the league knows it. Fans have to realize it. Quarterback 20 to quarterback 40 in the universe. It's a soup. Yes. It's a lot of based on situation, who's 100% healthy, who has a good system right now, who's figured something out that they didn't know when they were a rookie and they played 2 years and they got benched. 20 to 40. 20 is probably in the playoffs. 40 is sitting on a bench somewhere.
Yeah.
And they are almost the same interchangeable guy. And yet, from a fan standpoint, like, I can't believe this happened or that happened or this happened. It's just the random fluctuations of these individuals.
Yeah, like how much of a difference is there between like Aiden O'Connell and Sam Howell? Like I feel like that's just a jambalaya at that point.
Right, but like neither of them are like at 20. 20 is
right.
Carr or Geno or I don't know. I'm blanking right now, but somebody at that level. And then 40 is Howell.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's Daniel Jones, honestly, but he keeps getting opportunities. But and he wins a game like, oh my God, Daniel Jones was good. Well, he's somewhere between 20 and 40. Maybe he's 35, maybe he's 27, but he'll win sometimes.
Sure,
he'll win sometimes. Yeah,
he wins sometimes. Good stuff all around. What's coming on Too Deep Zone?
All right, so I took the entire NFL season so far, all 4 weeks, everything, and condensed it into 2,000 words.
Oh, my God.
Right, because I realize when we talk about this, and I see people on the Discord and like even people who like watch a lot of football, they've already lost track of stuff. Like what happened in that Raiders Ravens game? Like what happened? Like what's the injury situation? I was talking to somebody and it's like, both of the left and right tackle for the Chargers are injured, right? Both of them.
Right.
And Herbert has a bad ankle because they were trying to goad me into Herbert jokes. And it's like I ain't doing Herbert jokes right now because this is a ridiculous situation.
Yeah.
Like, I had no idea it was that bad. It's like people don't know. So I took everything, condensed it into 2,000 words, so you could like sit during your like snack break at work, like during your cigarette break, and get caught up the entire league.
I was gonna say, I think it the Adventures in Boat Racing.
That's today's.
Okay, I was gonna say I'm checking my inbox for it as we speak because I hadn't seen it yet. But
that's walkthrough. That's straight up. Everything we talked about today is in there. Cool. But like I was awake and sober when I wrote it. Actually, that's not true. I'm sober now. I'm just sleep deprived. I was a little tipsy when I wrote that. But then tomorrow we're gonna get that, and I think I'm gonna be doing some penalty deep dives later in the week. That's the plan.
Yeah, let's do some Tom Cable Raider stuff. I can't wait to read that. That's gonna be some good stuff. Sit Down with Max Crosby for me is coming this week. That'll be a lot of fun. Yes, was supposed to come last week, but Max dealing with an injury, we moved it, so that'll be coming very soon. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. Go and read all the stuff at the Sporting News, and we'll see you back here later on in the week to preview Week 5, recap everything that happened on Monday Night Football. Well, maybe not that last part because it's Snoop Huntley and Will Levis, so maybe we'll take a day off for that.
The other was good. The other game's good.
Yeah, we got Lions Seahawks, so we'll talk a little bit about that. But yeah, leave a review if you're listening to it as a podcast, and subscribe to all the YouTube stuff if you're watching this. Mike, I love you dearly, and I will always appreciate you joining me, buddy.
Always a pleasure, man. Take care.
Take care, everybody. We'll see you.